Okay, let's see if this works. Let me try it now. I had to go to
How
Rumble.
to store and sort all your photos
sorry,
and videos
guys.
in seconds.
Shit. Already got commercial on Rumble. We'll go to back over here.
To be buried? To go to. He was standing with his four-star general.
Which one, Joe?
And he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Oh
my
word.
First of all, it's all fake, but let's go here. That's what he says.
There
It's
was
fake.
Nobody believes that,
Joe.
Anytime he brings up his felonies. Up in Capitol Hill. And
Felony,
all those
Biden
people,
moment,
every one of
thug
those
life
was convicted.
moment, moderator
Deserves
cuts
to be
him off.
convicted.
Biden brings up his felonies. Trump represents Hunter Biden. Finish the drink when Biden freezes, or uncomfortably long type of pause. Business expense, you shouldn't. A haircut, guess what? He thinks you should be in jail. That's an authoritarian prick. That's Mussolini without the fucking charm.
Hey, don't be bringing the guineas into this.
I apologize. Pol Pot.
Okay. Are all gone now, out of office. And Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
Is he talking
The
about
only
Hillary?
person in this
Talking about the commission, January 6th.
This man I'm looking at right now.
Brought
And
up
the
his
fact of
felony
the matter
drink.
is,
Oh, yeah.
he isn't-
Bring the drinking
what
game
he's
rules
telling
back
you is
up.
simply not true.
For people who are new to the
There
stream,
was no
Nobody
effort on
believes
his
that,
part
Joe.
to
anytime
stop
he brings
what
up his
was going on
felonies.
up in Capitol Hill. And
Felony,
all those
Biden
people, every
moment,
one of
thug
those were
life
convicted,
moment, moderator
deserves
cuts
to
him
be
off.
convicted.
Biden
The
brings
idea
up his
that they
felonies.
can
Trump
kill
represents Hunter
somebody
Biden. Finish the drink when Biden freezes, or uncomfortably long type of pause, or if he poops.
Turned over statues.
Which I think we
The
have one
idea
potential.
that those
Yeah.
people are
Early on,
patriots.
here.
Come on.
We had a freeze.
When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around,
had a great tweet
I said,
about
will
this.
you
People can
denounce
hear you.
the
You're on the
Proud Boys?
microphone, even
He
if you
said,
whisper,
no, I'll
Nick.
tell them
I
to
don't get
stand by. The idea
He's
is
whispering the whole
refusing-
fucking debate.
Will you denounce these
Especially when I went to
guys?
Dana and said, pull my
Denounce
finger.
the people we're talking about now? You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up.
Hold on, pause. Did you see? He never allows Donald Trump to toss it to Biden, but if he thinks Biden has a gotcha, he asks Trump to answer.
Absolutely.
What a bitch.
Every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably
Mentioned Hunter
numerous other
Biden.
times.
Bring up the drinking game rules, people who are missing
but
it.
his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a
Watch,
convicted
moderator's
felon
gonna say,
with
"That's
all
not
of-
true, that's
Oh,
conjecture."
shit.
Watch,
He's done.
watch.
He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling
The moderators are going to
Ukrainian
protect
people,
Biden on this.
We're
Watch.
gonna want $1 billion, or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing
I
wrong.
love it.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you
Love
have
it.
said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well,
I gotta go to bed.
Over
Over
here.
here.
Give you a minute to respond.
He's giving him.
The
I told you.
idea.
What did I tell you?
Yeah.
It's one of the rare instances where he's going to cover for him.
What you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two,
That's all he
the
says.
idea that you have a
Outrageous.
right
Okay,
to
Johnny
seek
Cochran.
retribution against any American
said
just because you're
malarkey.
president is wrong.
Johnny
It's simply
Cockhead.
wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes
No
that you
former
are
vice
still
president ever
charged
showered with their
think of all
9-year-old
the
daughter
civil
before, but I guess there's a
penalties.
first for all of us.
Millions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties
She 9?
for molesting
playing
a
it
woman in
conservative.
public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife
How about
was
sex
pregnant.
with your niece?
What are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley.
Joe, what's the name of your granddaughter you
I didn't
denied
have
for
sex with
how
a
many
porn
years?
star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved.
Make sure you
They moved
pivot.
a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case.
True.
That case is
Parry
going to
and
be appealed
attack.
and won.
Parry and attack. Don't
They
spend
had
time on
a
it.
very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor
Just say
were
it's
all
bogus, go right
high-ranking
to Biden.
Democrats,
Yep.
appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after
Too
his
much time.
political
Perry,
opponent
go to
because
Biden.
he thought it was going to
Contrast.
damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases,
He
you know what they
doesn't.
did? My poll numbers
should
went up
ask
way
him.
up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history
Good.
of
He's pivoted to the
any
bogus
campaign.
conviction,
I don't
not
think any
the-
campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came
'Cause
pouring
people
in
knew.
because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President
you
Trump.
go.
President
Boom!
Biden, you
Thug-like
have said,
moment.
quote, Donald
Bring it
Trump
home.
and his MAGA Republicans
Biden already
are
lost this
determined
election
to
with that
destroy
giant
American
freeze he couldn't
democracy.
recover.
Listen, he's
Do you
feeding him a
believe
good
that
one.
the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes.
That's a
The more
layup.
they know about
I
what
know.
he's done.
I know.
And there's a lot more coming.
Softball
He's got a
down
lot
the
of
middle.
cases down the road coming around.
He really
He's
is a piece of
he's
shit,
got a
Jake.
whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do. but
He
I
just
do
here's
know
one
he's
thing that
will
Donald
fight.
Trump never
And
does.
so the fact that
He's never attacked
never
the
think
Democrat
you're
voters.
president
He's
say
only attacked
that
the
I'm
Democrat
gonna
Party.
say-
Joe Biden just
Say
attacked
that
the
I
voters.
thought Hitler had some good
He
ideas.
hates you.
What got
Do you
me involved
understand
in the
this?
first place
Do you
was
understand that the left
something I
actually
decided-
hates you?
That's right.
He just told you that you are voting against democracy.
All over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that. And he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
PBD.
You can pause it. By the way,
Are we going to discuss this right now?
Rob, do me a favor, Rob. Go to my Twitter account. Go to my Twitter account.
Yeah.
You're standing up in the middle of the camera, guys. Be
No,
careful.
they can. You're fine, guys. If you
Yeah,
need
go.
to use
Go to
your
the
restroom,
bathroom.
you can do your thing. We're here. If you do need to, I'm going to show you right now.
Yeah.
Rob, go to my last tweet. Guys, if you can do me a favor, you can walk around, but don't make a lot of noise.
Yeah, not
Okay.
too much noise, guys.
Guys, if you can, you guys can go to the bathroom. Just keep it down so the audience can hear us. This is because you'd be in jail moment, and it's over after this. Go ahead, Rob. This is it. This is when it was done with.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I
Yeah.
don't think he knows what he said either.
It's over.
It's done.
By the way, this is, I don't even know what word to use. This is done. This is embarrassing. And
Yeah.
the most important question every voter has to answer is the following.
Yeah.
Okay? What is the likelihood of that China, Russia, and Iran's watching this right now?
They're all watching
100%.
the debate.
Let me ask you a question. If they could somehow, some way participate to manipulate our election, which one of those two do you think they would prefer winning the
It's not
election?
Joe
close.
Biden. Not even
Joe
close.
Biden.
Wow.
Period. Done. That's the only thing. If the only way you vote, if you're trying to make sure the country is safe for you, your wife, your husband, your kids, ask the question, do you believe China, Russia, and Iran hate America? If they do you believe they would prefer to go up against a Trump or a
Yeah,
Biden?
everybody said no to that.
Based on whatever your answer is, vote accordingly.
Yeah.
Wow. And I genuinely think, because we know.
Let me turn the volume down. Oh, it's gone. The poll, there it is. Look, he's gonna be replaced. I think. What do you guys think? They're gonna just let him burn out a bit and then replace him. It looks like they got a commercial break, just so you know. Which one do you voted for? Yes or no? I I think they're going to replace him. Now it's interesting. They brought up the Zelensky, and Trump said he would deal with Zelensky and also Putin and get it resolved. Putin stated that since Zelensky he stopped the election, and that's how he stayed in office still. He didn't even let the elections go through. That he says he's an illegitimate president, a person sitting there, which makes sense because he didn't even, try to fake it out with an election. He just stopped it, and they took over the radio stations, and they won communications now coming out by the government of Ukraine. So yeah, Putin said he will not deal with that. So they actually have to get rid of Zelensky for Putin to do the bargaining thing, and it looks like the second in command would be the one that Putin would deal with. Already said he would deal with it.
What are we gonna do for now? They spent a week prepping for this. This is what you got.
With 16 people.
Kind of sucked.
They supposedly were gonna give him drugs and drug him up. Why didn't you do it, guys?
I thought he was going to be amped up.
Getting this podcast, the goal of Joe Biden should not be to win the debate. It was to not lose. You showed, dude, do a C. Pass the test. This is an F minus. Yeah. He's failed. It's embarrassing. I'll tell you this. He used the convicted felon line twice. With the over-under was 3. I'd rather have a convicted felon than a...
All right, so you guys know about this channel here. It's interesting. PBD. Over here is these Crowder guy. I don't think much of Crowder, but let's see what they're saying.
The idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected.
You ran. Get $24 off election night.
Yeah, it's just commercial time for them. I don't know why they got to take a break, but I guess they said, look. He needs a break. This one needs a break. What do you guys think? Now let's go to. You guys want to talk about anything else? Like, shout out to. Here we go. Hold on.
All black businesses that have been started at any time in history. Number 2. The wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses.
Cut it.
And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
Jeez. You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing.
Did he just say baloney?
Anything having to do with volunteers.
Black families and baloney?
If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more
Michelle,
black families.
they're all
Thank you, President Trump.
everything that I thought.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing
This is
people.
not the
They
same guy at the
can't
State
buy
of the Union
groceries
2
anymore.
months
They
ago.
can't. You
Totally
look at the
different guy.
cost of food where it's
He's not the
doubled
same guy.
and tripled and
Was when he
quadrupled.
declined,
They can't live.
the
They're not
decline.
living anymore. He caused this
Well, they said
inflation.
they
I
had
gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals.
Thousands of
who were
millions of
involved
jobs.
communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has.
What?
He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them. And they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones, and the biggest benefit. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever. And we did
the water, boy.
We were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We've not able. The United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
cut them off.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old.
The right answer, guys,
the idea that they're going to
stop spending and giving all this fucking money away. That would have been the right answer. Not. Oh, shit, come on. We don't need to protect our seniors. They cut it off at that. So I'm looking up the...
It's ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. The only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession, and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
Yeah. President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border, that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world.
Nope.
No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody.
They think you're weak, not we.
Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care.
Guys, I'm not turning the
he did
comments
for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, We have polling. We have other things they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the 2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before.
Because they're rich.
All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise the tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported.
He wants to raise.
He's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised. He's somehow.
This is all on purpose.
Class.
100%.
Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history. Number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up,
oh, God.
We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said, by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate.
Dude, nobody.
And now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he cuddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve? Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior.
2 club
championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is. Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Be a pro golfer, probably.
And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Now they're arguing about golf.
Golf fight.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody.
Yep.
And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said,
He said fair.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump. Nothing.
Period.
He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have, until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see.
Oh, wow.
You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Rob, how long is this debate? Is it an hour and a half or 2 hours?
I thought it was only
an
hour and a half.
They're going to keep you through. They want to sell a little ad time, commercial time.
All right.
They're going to come back and say, all right, wrap up.
I want to ask you guys a question. I want to ask you guys a question. If I can get your attention, please. Can you go on Twitter real quick? Let me tell you guys what's the weirdest thing I just wrote down here that I'm a little bit confused with, if you can please. So a few things is, go back to how many of the debates we've done in the past, right? Especially with Trump. How often did moderators interrupt Trump? Every time.
Yep.
How often did moderators debate on behalf of his opponent? Every time. How often did moderators correct Trump on something he said? Every single time. Why did tonight's moderators start off with inflation? Why did they start off with economy first while that's the main pressure point? You should not be covering that first. Why has Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, why have they been so fair tonight? Why? Do you think they're sitting there like, yeah, this is great? They're almost acting like they work for Fox News. They almost act like they're Republicans, like they're going to vote for Trump. So we know that's not the case. So what else could it be? Is it the fact that they're embarrassed? Like they've already accepted the loss? Like, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. Please hurry up, sell the effing ad time so I can get the hell out of here because this is simply embarrassing. Or maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe behind closed doors, this is what I would do. If you're my candidate and I'm one of your people working for you, I'm one of your campaign guys, I'm a heavyweight decision maker on the political party, I'd come right before, I'm like, where is he? He's in the room. I want to talk to him privately. He's right there. Okay, let me go talk to him. Joe, how you doing? Joe, how you doing, Joe? Joe, how you feeling, Joe? No, hang on a second, because we know, I'm actually not trying to be funny. There's bosses of bosses. Then I'd go out and say, guys, it's done. Where's Gavin? Let me talk to him. Let's go to the back.
All right, look. Somebody asked me to bring up the let me see if I can find it. Let me pull it over to the side here and grab it. So Dr. Ronald Ng, he did the Titan. He did a Titan submersible video. I commented on his video to him. People were hating on his Attenborough thing. Oh shit! I'm trying to do a search and what the hell? They don't have them. Let me show you what they don't have. Let me pull it over. He should be top here. A year ago, etc. So let's change the filter to this week. 6 days ago, 4 days ago. Oh man, Dr. Ronald Ng. Have you been put in the bad boy class? physics lab. There's me talking about the physics lab there, and then oh man, that's messed up. Someone asked me to comment on it, but wow, deep sea disaster. What the hell is it? Huh. Let me try this. Okay. Let's try this. There we go. So let's just pull up there. Subscribe to your channel right here. Here's your video. You guys have to make sure that things not come up. You just pull it over to the side. No. Oh shit, it's back.
That'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare to for the ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400.
All on purpose.
No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior. All along it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits that people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation.
Lead pipes. There's a lot of programs out there for you contractors doing lead pipes. I did them years ago, and that program's been still going on for years. And it's not that they're just trying to be nice to homeowners. It's the cross-contamination of the existing homeowners' lead pipe getting into the system. So don't you believe that they're just being nice. They're just getting the lead down because, well, the back feeding of the water into the lead volume into the results.
And give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
2 minutes for your
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Pat, how much you want to make a bet that they're going to be interviewing Gavin Newsom right now? How much you guys think?
They don't have a choice.
They have to.
President Biden looked exceptional tonight. No. He looked like a caring man who loves his country versus a man who all he cares about is himself. That's the script. But guess what? You can't, listen, you can manipulate anybody for an hour.
Yeah.
Some for a day, some for a month, some for a year. You cannot manipulate majority of the people.
Let's go to CNN and see the Tapper thing that you said. So let's look at that. See what the Tapper, CNN, the debate, yeah.
Take sometimes incredible falsehoods and turn them into some kind of argument, whereas Biden's answers were, in a lot of cases, not coherent, deeply problematic, that he was not able to take pretty straightforward answers and answer them to the American public, and then also at some points that teed up Trump attacks. So there's a real concern here tonight that there's been some real damage done that cannot be undone. Biden solidified the perception among voters, but especially among his base. They were hoping that tonight would be a game changer. They are now seeing a president who is in the White House, who they do not necessarily believe can do this for another 4 years.
David Axelrod?
Look, I can't argue with either of them about how Democratic leaders are reacting to this poll. We said at the beginning that each person had a fundamental goal. And for Biden, that goal was to appear energetic, engaged, and look like someone who is capable of serving for another 4 years for president. That was job number one. I actually think he scored a bunch of points. I think if you just judge this on sort of policy stuff, he did score a bunch of points on issues like abortion, for example, on some of the economic issues. But there is a feeling, I think there was a sense of shock, actually, at how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded, he seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue. And I think part of it is Donald Trump did not meet his mission either. He could not resist the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate about a whole bunch of things, about his own record, about Biden's record, and to seem petty and small at times. So what you saw was a candidate who's deeply vulnerable and a president who may not be able to take advantage of it.
Listen, if anybody in America thinks that was even close to being an okay debate by Joe Biden, I'm living in a parallel universe. That was an unmitigated disaster for President Biden from the second he walked out to the closing statement. The biggest issue for Democrats is abortion, and he couldn't give an answer. He gave an answer, he couldn't even give a coherent answer on the biggest issue for Democrats tonight. I've heard from leading Democrats across the United States, elected governors, congressmen, who are texting me and saying, I'm worried I'm going to lose if Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket. Bob Casey, I promise you tonight, in the state of Pennsylvania, is thrown up in his mouth because he knows that if he's got to stand next to Joe Biden, he's going down in Pennsylvania. If he's on the ticket, I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah, look, it was a really disappointing debate performance from Joe Biden. I don't think there's any other way to slice it. His biggest issue that he had to prove to the American people was that he had the energy, he had the stamina, and he didn't do that. And so I think that is of concern, and I think for a lot of Democrats, that's very disappointing. I will say Donald Trump also had some really rough moments in this debate, and talking to the Biden campaign, they say their dials started really moving away from Trump as he was increasing his personal attacks on Biden. So I think there was a lot about his kind of character and the kind of personal nastiness that he was putting on display, that doesn't help him with the swing voters that he needs. And I also think you saw him continue to get sort of more and more animated across the course of the debate and, give some really problematic answers about January 6th, some really problematic answers about Putin. So, Donald Trump did not get off scot-free tonight by any stretch. But look, there is no two ways about it. That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
Ben? That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
And if I may just add to that, I think Joe Biden lost in the first 3 minutes. I think a lot of voters probably tuned out, and millions of people are having conversations with their families, with their friends, of if the president is up to the task and if he should step aside. And I'm someone who believes the former president is a threat to democracy. I think he is a threat to the America as we know it. He wants to fundamentally change our institutions. He has laid out what his plan is. I am not confident that that is the man to take him on. You cannot tell me democracy is on the line and then give that performance tonight. If, based on that, in 18 weeks, Donald Trump will be the president-elect.
The people doing focus groups tonight, and we'll see if our style group with Laura Coates confirms this, say that Biden actually scores pretty well on the issues when he's talking about the substance. And Trump's numbers went down both because he was ducking questions, he was lying about some, also sometimes a blind spot because he is so stubborn. It's going to be very hard to someone, and I don't know who it is, who could go.
A little buffering going on, but they're bouncing his ass.
Go to Joe Biden and say, you need to do this, number one. And the question is, again, like, I'm just telling you, to Abby's point, I've been doing this for 30-something years, going on 40 years, and I have never, ever had what happened on this thing tonight happen in the middle of a debate. It started early, and it continued. And to Van's point, Van made a very important point. These are people who love Joe Biden, who credit Joe Biden for kicking Donald Trump out of the White House. They're Democrats. The Democratic Party is a very diverse party. It fights about a lot of things. It has generational issues. It's had regional issues and everything else. The thing that unites the Democratic Party is trying to keep Donald Trump from getting back into the White House. They love Joe Biden for kicking him out. They don't want him back. They came into this debate nervous that Biden was in a weak position. They leave this debate panicked.
John, if you love the guy, how could you put him out there? That's if you love him, if you love Joe Biden, if that was my father, you don't put a guy in that situation.
It's a great point. These guys know this better. These guys know this better because they talk to them. There's this legacy in the Democratic Party. You don't challenge the incumbent because when it's happened in the past, they haven't beaten the incumbent, and then the incumbent has lost the general election.
It was actually Donald Trump that helped make Joe Biden the nominee because there was a feeling that if there were a primary, that would weaken, that Biden would probably win, but it would weaken him in a general election. And so there were people who could have run and didn't run because the history of that is bad. The point is now he is the nominee of the Democratic Party. This isn't the 60s, okay? Voters choose the nominee. He is the nominee. Only he can decide whether he's going to continue. And as you point out, and as Kate knows very well, this is a guy with a lot of pride and who believes in himself. And the idea that he's going to say, you know what, I had a bad debate, I think I'm going to walk away from this, I find it hard to believe.
It was also, and I'll let you, I know Scott, you've been trying to jump in, but it was also, it was an atypically bad performance, okay? And it was also one night. So yes, was it an important night? Yes, but it was one night in the course of a campaign. So I think let's see how voters react to it. Let's see how voters react to it.
The problem with the one night is that it's a one night that helped confirm people's fears. Yeah. It's the one night that everybody was watching. That was essentially, Trump said, you ought to take a test. That was his test. And people are going to feel that he came up wanting, not on the substance. I think he actually won on the substance. I don't think Trump did well. I think what it says to a lot of people, a lot of active Democrats is, man, we can beat this guy, but I don't know if we can beat him with the president.
Scott, we haven't heard from you.
When we came on before this debate, I said I thought this candidacy was teetering.
Hey, George.
And everybody jumped on me.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Every single person out here. and I just, the candidacy has fallen. Okay?
Wow.
Van, I know you're speaking from your heart. I'm worried about the president. We should pray for the president.
Oh,
I think his advisors, I think the White House, and I think his family have a lot of explaining to do.
All of them.
To their party.
All of them said he's got to
and
go.
to the American people. This night, this one night, was caused by and asked for by the Biden team. They wanted this night. And this is what we got. We have been told for weeks.
Republican.
Eating grapes, guys, so if you hear me in the background, sorry. A little buffer.
Tonight, I heard from one who said,
oh, there's the title of it.
This is scary. That's how it was described to me. And
I'd second that.
There were a lot. There was a lot. There were a lot of those feelings, not just from the base of the party, but other people who really think that there should be an alternative to Trump, who they think is dangerous, and that's the other part of what is unfolding tonight in terms of the panic that is out there.
You already have, coming into this debate, support for third-party candidates, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. highest, and then Jill Stein and Cornel West nowhere near as close. But if you add it all up, you get into the teens in most states when you do that. I think one byproduct out of this is watch and see if those numbers go up a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to go up anywhere like a Perot standard, but you get to third-party candidates getting into double digits, then that's really starts to twist your electoral math state depending on who they're drawing from state by state. This was already a very complicated race. This is within. Number one, the biggest complication right now is the conversation with the Democratic Party. But the other complication is going to be if Joe Biden stays put, and Kate's right, maybe there'll be another debate. I'm not sure Donald Trump's going to agree to a second debate. Biden's going to need it now. I'm not sure Trump's going to agree to it if the dynamics of the race change.
They'll never
and I would
meet
also
again.
watch the third party.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Especially to you two guys. If, for whatever reason, there's a change at the top of the ticket, you guys are in trouble with Donald Trump, because the guy who was up there tonight is not a guy who's going to inspire people. He did not show in any way that he has changed from the guy who people have a very positive opinion of for a lot of good reasons.
I think Donald Trump won several policy exchanges tonight. I think he did well on immigration. I think he did well on the economy. I think he did well on inflation. I think he went back to Afghanistan as he should have. The thing he did not do, remember him staring blankly into the camera. They're going to remember him looking down, losing his train of thought. And they're going to remember that everything I thought I knew, but the White House told me don't believe my own eyes, is actually true.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I said, Scott, was if Joe Biden were not the candidate, if there was another candidate, I think Donald Trump would be in deep trouble.
But if I may, that is such a sad state of affairs. Something I was consistently hearing is, what a bad debate in the sense that Donald Trump lied throughout. He misrepresented. He tried to turn away from key points that he should have given answers on and kept deflecting. With any normal, generic Democrat next to him, I don't think he would have won the night. But you put somebody who was suffering from the moment that they got out. It was hard to watch. I had to occasionally look away because it was so uncomfortable. I think America deserves better than the options that are in front of them. It's really devastating. And by the way, our allies are watching.
Yeah, look, I mean, the way that I would try to phrase it if I were less emotional is Biden stuttered, but he told the truth. He looked terrible, but his policies were good. Trump spoke plainly, but he lied the whole time. And he looked good, but his policies were terrible. I mean, he's going to do nothing on climate change. He was hugging the cactus on abortion. I mean, his policies are terrible. So you have somebody who probably shouldn't be president, and you have somebody who cannot be president in terms of what Donald Trump represents. So we have a problem as a country now, and this might be an opportunity for people to come together and figure this out, because neither one of those people right now are inspiring the confidence that they should inspire, that they can do the job in a way that would be good for the country.
But young voters are up for grabs in this election, and I don't know a voter under 30 who would have watched tonight and could say, I have confidence in Joe Biden and casting my vote for 4 more years of Biden.
And this opens the door, by the way, for the conversation about if Joe Biden remains the candidate, you're not voting for Joe Biden. You are voting for President Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. That is where the Trump campaign is going to go with this. They started down this road with an ad they released today. But this conversation about who you're actually casting your vote for, the volume is going to ratchet up. And I got news for you. She's less popular than he is. That is going to be a big problem for the Democrats if this ticket stays the way it is.
Yeah, and to Scott's Democratic friend who maxed out, right? That's the sentiment you're going to hear, I think, from some of my Democratic friends who are texting me saying, "I can't believe this is where we are." Right?
Yeah.
I don't forgive. I can't. I'm not going to be able to forgive the party for putting in this position.
Look,
on Donald Trump's lies. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this throughout the debate because, we in the media, I sit in the chair and I fact check Trump all the time, so I know these lies by heart at this point. But people watching from home do not, and Biden's job as the other person on the other side of the stage is to be the one to very quickly dispense with the lies and to shut them down. And I don't think that happened enough times in a coherent way to blunt the fact that Trump was taking a universe that was built on a house of lies and building a whole world for the millions of people watching.
Particularly on some of the most basic subject matters that President Biden should have been able to just...
That world that he was able to build, it was not knocked down by the president. That is really at the heart of the problem. He may have won when he was making his discrete policy points, but part of the job on the debate stage is dealing with an opponent like Donald Trump, who goes like a mile a minute on things that are not true. And if you don't deal with that,
Abby.
I don't know if no one at home is doing that.
All I want to say is I'm not sure. I don't think you're giving viewers enough credit. I think what they saw was the Trump that they didn't like. And I don't think he did himself a great service tonight.
And I also think we should let voters absorb this and see what they say, right? Let's look at the dials. Let's look at where they are next week. We can make our pronouncements, but ultimately voters have to absorb
it. They're going to turn your mics off, guys.
Real quickly, on the one thing that that Biden did fact check him on the Charlottesville thing, he was completely wrong. All right, so he's up there talking about Charlottesville and Trump not denouncing the two sides, and Snopes was out last week. 7 months, 7 years too late kind of thing on the deal. And that's the thing Joe Biden's going to fact check him on, something that was proven false.
We're going to more with the panel out here. A lot of notable moments, painful moments from tonight. But as we've been talking about, perhaps a single defining one.
Let me switch it up for you a bit. My porn's not on here. All right, here we go. So let's look at this real quickly. Bring you to Dr. Ronald Ing's Dr. Ing Ronald Wagner. The Titan thing. He used if you look at the comments, some people got upset with him using AI. And I wrote him. I said, hey, thank you for posting. I enjoy the Soaring Monkey. AI voice is amazing. I went the opposite way with it. I thought it was great what he did there. And congratulations on your sponsorship. So, yeah, that was one of the images. Remember, they did not test it with the rear end on it. Pressure test is not a water test. Motherfucker. No fucking idea what that was, guys. Let me see. I don't know what the hell it was. Big ass large. I'll go out there and look in a few minutes. So yeah, I'll do another video on the. Let's see, he has one image here. Here's the monkey. Monkey sawing. That was our Stockton Rush. See? All right, so you got a sense of humor there. Here we go. I really need to get this concept across to you a little better, and I found a flashlight to help me do it today, and I'll do that to show why it's so important. That if you just think of it as 5,000 psi right here, right, pressing here. Remember, this is wound a certain way, and he has an image of it being wound. Let's go with the mandrel, that's that testing. I want to go with the one that's got more of the small scale one. The small scale. Well, and maybe I can help you understand it again this way. Look at the 5,000 psi. Just point loaded here. Single in the middle here. Just point loaded for me. All right. You can make it as point loaded. You can use large as a hammer, large as a book. If I put 5,000 psi per square inch over your book here, and you try to push through this chamber here, and what happens is you all around that, and it's a curved book. Okay, it follows the shape of this, and all around of this is also fibers that are going multiple directions, but that's the middle here I have you pushing against. Ah, shit. Yeah, you can see the mouse. All right. Now I want you to, this is the interface ring, and then this is the end caps. So the bells, so you're pushing down here at 5,000 psi. You can see that it has it's in the tributary area of this entire section, this entire carbon fiber vessel. But if I put it at the very edge and I put the same PSI on it, there is no, it's not a tributary area, it's the critical shear zone, it's at the edge of it. It's not in the middle. And so even though you're applying the same load the ocean is everywhere around here, it's stronger in the middle because it's got fiber. It's like pushing on that rope thing in the middle, a hammock. And you're putting the load in the hammock there, it's sharing one side to the next. Think of it like that. One connection and the other connection sharing it. And as we get closer to the one connection of the hammock, we now, distribution of load is more hanging on the one side as you get closer to the hammock, if you get closer up to the end of the rope. Same thing with this, the load distribution is changing to where when it's here, there is no other side to grab on. There is no hammock except for the interface ring, which we know is just a very small, and I predicted that before it came out, the spiraling effect of the interface ring, why it was spiraled. And where are you? That's what I see as the failure. The interface ring, right here, when you look here. Remember, they tapered it off. Also, they upped the layers, but this is a beveled edge. And yes, it's glued, and that matters. Literally matters because of it also helps connect it to keep it connected, bonded with the interface ring, not to be confused with the end bell. So and then what else helps is that this little silly ass recessed interface ring, which I'm gonna show you with the flashlight. And I think that's why it failed at the end. Is not that probably all things equal, if it's going to fail in the same testing, it's going to be at the edges. And we saw that with their small scale models also. That the end caps are, multiple failure modes on that when they were testing. I think he has one of them here, but there was a couple of tests on it. And remember, they transported this, and so it had a lot of but with that said, it's also right at the edge here, and I believe that's where we're having our issue, the edges of it. But remember, I also think it took a spiral And that's why I show the interface ring when they come up. It's curly cued out, if you remember that video. I'm going to end this video now. This was the Trump thing. So maybe I'll break this video up and come back to this. But take care, guys. Love you. Thanks. Bye.